Welcome back. My name is Kit.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Streaming Things, streaming Severance. Welcome to the first of, it looks like at least 19 episodes about the show Severance on Apple TV+.
Oh, so there's 10 in season 2, huh?
I think so. Some of the new actors are listed as being there for 10 episodes.
My goodness.
We're going to be rewatching, because we've all seen Severance before. We're rewatching season 1 in anticipation of season 2, which drops on Apple TV Plus on January 17th, year of our Lord 2025. So for the next, I don't know, what day is it? Like 5-6 weeks, you're going to be journeying with us. Mm-hmm. So if you've never seen the show before, don't worry. We're not going to spoil anything beyond the episode that we're talking about.
Yep. And
we're very good at that. We do this a lot. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
We're definitely not going to talk about the reveal that Adam Scott is Zach Cherry's father. Oh,
Whoa.
shit. No.
So if you've never listened to Streaming Things before, welcome. I think you're going to love it. Me personally, if I may say so, I think you're going to love it.
It's a bop.
What we're going to do, we're going to talk about our overall thoughts on this episode and then do a scene-by-scene, play-by-play recap of exactly what happened, what went down. And then we'll discuss our favorite moments. And I think we're going to call them the Kier 3 mandates.
The Kier's top 3 mandates.
That's our favorite moments of the episode. And then our Waffle Party recipient will be our favorite performance of the episode. So we'll do that at the end of every single episode. You can find more content just like this at streamingthings.com. You can actually. You can. That's true as well. But also patreon.com/streamingthings, where we're covering Game of Thrones. We are deep into season 3 as you're hearing this. And we're going to finish the entire series. But we do a bunch of other shows and movies and stuff on there as well. Mm-hmm. So you can write into the show at streamingthingspod@gmail.com. Let us know how you're digging the Severance content and anything else you have questions or concerns about. But let's dive in. You guys ready?
So ready.
We've been waiting for this for months and months and months. We love this show.
Yeah. What are you guys' overall thoughts? Just without spoilers, how excited are you to get into covering this show? Andy, were you a huge fan of it when it first came out?
Massive fan, although it's been long enough to where I can't remember most of it. So I'm going in pretty fresh and I'm just like, ooh, who's that? Who's Helly? You know what I mean? I'm having a good time.
Yeah, same. Like you said, I haven't seen this since it first aired in 2021, right? Because it's almost been 3 years.
It is 2022.
2022. Okay, so that's the math. Yeah, 3 years. That's 2022 because we're going into 2025.
Yeah. Goddamn right.
It's almost been 3 years since the season ended and the new one's coming out. So yeah, it's very fresh to me, but it was great to sort of start watching it again and just being reminded of how much I just adore this show from top to bottom. It's so amazing.
It's so pretty. The cinematography is incredible. Yes. They do such cool camera tricks. And there's a couple of standouts in this episode, and we'll talk about them when we get there. But
agreed.
The music fucking hits.
The music is
Some
incredible.
of the most perfect casting ever. Mm-hmm. This show just fucking slaps.
It came out of nowhere too. I mean, they had Ted Lasso, but people have been mostly to this day sleep on Apple TV Plus, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
And Severance has just kind of broken that trend, and it's pretty mainstream, I think. And people have been chomping at the bit for this fucking show because 3 years between seasons is honestly, no offense, fucking ridiculous.
That's a long time.
Yeah, the Game first season's so good, and people were just, what's next? What happens next? So it's been nuts. It's been this long.
It's a deep mystery too, so that's even more frustrating. Yeah. But I mean, I just don't know what's up these days. Game of Thrones is a very expensive, very successful, very layered, awesome show. I think most people would agree on that. We were getting seasons every year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Until season 7. It was every year. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. And nowadays people are just, I think honestly, it's because it's woke and lazy. You didn't know I was going there.
Oh, man. Are you saying they went broke as a result of them going woke?
I think so, Steve. I think so. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be so fun to dive into. It's like listening to a song you haven't heard in 20, like I just did with Bush, Glycerine. It's like you remember you remember the words right before you hear them. But if somebody asked you without turning the song on to sing it, you couldn't. That's how I feel about watching the show. I'm like, I kind of vaguely remember what happens, but not really. But then as things are happening, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's right. That's her. You know?
And like you said, there are things that I vaguely remember, but there's also like a bunch of stuff that I don't like, the finer points I don't like. I was watching this with Erica and she's never seen the show before. So she was asking me like, oh, is that person like kind of like a this thing? And I'm like, I honestly can't remember. I know that's a thing.
Like you act like you're playing coy, but you actually don't know.
You're like, I don't know.
Wait to find out.
Google what is
Exactly.
Waffle Party?
But let's dive into it. Let's do it. Andy, what are your overall thoughts on episode 1?
Oh, here, hold on. Did you want to do the...
As I recall, I do the thing before
After?
the recap.
Okay. Cool. That's cool.
That's why I hesitated.
I mean, basically everything that I just said. The music fucking slaps. The camera work in this episode is fucking crazy good. Like, they have
Ben
this
Stiller directing.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. They have this awesome like use of symmetry in a ton of the shots. And they do such a good job of like having one thing happening here and another thing happening there. And I don't know if it's like a split diopter or what, but like the way that things are filmed is just so interesting. And like it's coded for people like us where we're like, we love a good story, we love a good mystery, we love great acting, we love great music, but also we love the craft of it. And so this episode
Also, we look like we fuck.
yeah, exactly. Same with Adam Scott. He looks like he fucks.
He does.
But yeah, it is just such a titillating premiere for a show where it's like, oh my God, who is this? Like, just the girl wakes up on the table. Who are you? It's like, oh my God, who the fuck are you? What's going on here?
Yeah.
This fucking episode is unbelievable. It's so good.
Yeah.
Steve?
No, I agree. This is like one hell of a debut for a TV show. Like everything that Andy mentioned, I'm just going to pile on to. Like the score, incredible. Like it has these notes of like this listful kind of going through your day-to-day sadness, but also they have that like those like synthy notes that add to like a mysterious sci-fi mystery that is embedded into the DNA of the show.
The mysterious mystery of the show.
Yeah. If you're like me and you love Wes Anderson movies that make use of shots that are just nothing but symmetry, but there's like a warm quirkiness to them. All right, take that style, drop it in here and remove all the warm quirkiness out of it. And you just got like corporate symmetry, like the beautiful use of colors, like throughout the whole show, like the use of blue, red, and green specifically is used really, really well in the show. And like, I like even to the point where, we'll get to it in the recap, but there's points where like the symmetry visually tells the story of what's happening with the two characters too. And like, you get it just by the shots they're framing, not even so much what the actors are doing, but the way they're composing every shot is just so incredibly intelligent and smart. But I love it because you're initially thrust into this world of corporate bureaucracy where it's like droll and boring and kind of scary in a way because it's just corporate bureaucracy. And it's like a clock in, clock out, and you kind of lose yourself and you're kind of wondering, why is this guy so sad? But he's so chipper when he becomes the innie part of himself. And who's that girl on the table? Why is she there? What's actually going on in this place? It's like there's so much mystery in this show, but the way they sort of answer the things organically, it's a great ride. It's not like, so for instance, we're watching Dune Prophecy, and there are some mysteries going on there where they're being purposely obtuse as to what the answer to the mystery is, but you're kind of like, okay, I don't care, but you're also not like organically answering them. Even in this first episode, they're like walking you through like, I'm titillated. You're not answering me, but like I'm here for the journey. And it's incredible. I love this episode so much.
You guys both keep using that word, and I love it, like from a poetic license standpoint, but also it implies at least slight arousal.
I am aroused.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
The table's like 2 inches higher on my end.
Because you're fully erect.
Yeah. And bigger than Andy.
I get it now. On my end. Okay. I also like the show. That's it. I don't think I'm titillated, but I'm very intrigued. It's very good. It's very good. The composer, by the way, his name is Theodore Shapiro. And you guys want to know what other scores you might know him from?
I would love to.
I think you could have guessed, I think. It's little movies like Not Another Teen Movie, Along Came Polly, Old school. Starsky and Hutch. 13 going on 30. Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
So this is a Ben Stiller guy.
He's very close with Ben Stiller. Idiocracy, Blades of Glory, Tropic Thunder, I Love You, Man. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Let's go. Dinner for Schmucks. Yeah, he works with Ben Stiller a lot.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of fun.
That is kind of an interesting thing to think about. Is like normally, and this isn't the case like modern times, but whenever for a long time, whenever I would think Ben Stiller, I would think of Ben Stiller's silly comedies from like the early 2000s, like Dodgeball and all that stuff. So it's kind of crazy that they take this turn. Heavyweights, yes. But it's so cool to think that like now he's made this turn into this like very dramatic mystery show that's still very funny, but like not in the same way that like Dodgeball is funny. Like, can you imagine Mr. Milchek walking in like, no one makes me bleed my own blood?
It's kind of grabbing the bull by the horns.
Zach Cherry would say that.
That really happened.
He also did the score for Secret Life of Walter Mitty. You know, I've been kind of
fucking love that movie.
I've been kind of hip to Ben Stiller doing great dramatic work for like since like 2016.
Right.
Yeah.
He did
Greenberg or what was that called?
No, it was a Netflix. Wasn't he in not Fundamentals of Caring, but the Meyerowitz stories? Isn't he in that?
I think so. I never watched it, but I think you're right.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
But this kind of blew us all away from a creative, like him being behind the creative team standpoint. Theodore Shapiro, by the way, if you Google him, the first thing it says is that, strangely enough, he first heard about doing the show at a Halloween party. I don't know why that's the top like Google
Fun
sentence
fact.
that's
You
highlighted.
wouldn't imagine it, but at a Halloween party.
Well, he was probably at Ben Stiller's Halloween parties. I got another one for you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
I wish I had a friend that made a lot of movies that I could just let me do something on.
Right.
Yeah. I need like a Adam Sandler or a Ben Stiller. Yeah. I need him to do more.
You're gonna do my movie. Yes, he is.
I would even put up with that for the work. Love the Sandman. But let's get into it. This first episode is titled Good News About Hell. It was directed by Ben Stiller. The show's creator also co-wrote this episode, Dan Erickson, and it's also co-written by Anna Oyang Mensch. And it is described on IMDb thusly. Mark is promoted to lead a team who have had their memories surgically divided between their work and personal lives. And that's where we're dropped into. It starts off with a woman waking on a conference table. It's like this overhead shot. It's really fucking wild. It's confusing. And we hear
I love the shot too, because this episode kind of talks about, you know, are we in hell? Is this an afterlife? That type of.
And it gives that vibe. It does feel like they're dead.
It does. Like, are they in some sort of limbo? What's happening here? And so this opening shot, it's like the way she's laying on the table is like almost coffin shaped. Like it looks like she's on a coffin on like a green carpet. It's really cool. Like I love it.
Yeah, but it's a conference table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love all of the, especially in our current climate where we are as a society, at least in America, I do love all of the corporate hell jokes and vibes and like the way that businesses treat its employees and the way that citizens are treated by its country. And I think it's a genius, very timely show.
Yeah.
You know, in an era, it's like rewatching this a couple of days after the CEO was shot on the street and everybody laughed. It's very interesting, I think, the way that specifically the boss of this company treats people and you're welcome to request a handshake. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit just hits so
May
differently.
I have a handshake, please?
And you could see the
like
disappointment on her
hesitates.
face. Like, oh, he actually wants it.
Fuck.
But we'll get there in a second. But yeah, she wakes up on the conference table. We hear a disembodied voice, but we recognize it's the voice of Adam
Who are
Scott
you?
because we're Parks and Rec fans because we're not fucking savages.
Right.
Yeah. Who are you? From the speaker that's also on the table. She refuses to take the survey because he's like, I got a 5-question survey here, and then I can answer any questions that you have. And that panning shot is great. It's all
the 360-degree panning shot of her walking around the room.
It's on a tripod. It's all in one take, going around and around the room, and then it doesn't cut until she gets to the door.
Yeah.
And she's about to start knocking on it.
When I was in college, I did those shots a lot, like a tripod in one spot and just follow someone in a full circle. Like I did that stuff all the time.
Because you're a fucking G. You and Ben Stiller, only ones to ever do it. I'm pretty sure.
I call him William.
That sounds less personal.
Yeah. Real ones now.
Yeah. But the 5 questions of the survey are, who are you? She doesn't know. Unknown. Which state were you born in? She doesn't know. Name any U.S. state or territory. Delaware.
We're in Delaware.
What's Mr. Egan's favorite breakfast? She goes, who's Mr. Egan? And you can hear him go, right? That's so funny to me. And then 5, what is or was the color of your mother's eyes? She doesn't know that either.
And
So
she starts to cry. Oh, that's such a turn of a question.
yeah, can you imagine waking up? You don't know the answer to what's your name? And some guy's just like, what's Mr. Egan's favorite breakfast? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Not a good day.
No.
But unknown, Delaware, unknown. That's a perfect score.
Perfect score.
And he arrives as this like shadowy figure in the doorway. It's so interesting. And then we cut.
Are you, when you guys first watched this, I don't know if you guys can remember or not, but when he opened the door for the first time and he's like the silhouetted character, were you ever like, ooh, that's spooky? Or were you concerned about who Adam Scott was at this point in the show?
I mean, that is a menacing shot for sure.
It's definitely, it's scary.
I don't remember what my gut reaction was, but even now it's like, oh fuck, like, you know, I think it's coded that way for sure. Like,
Yeah, if I'm crying, that's not what I want to see. It's the shadowy figure.
remember what color your mother's eyes were.
I don't want to see a shadowy figure when Delaware is invoked in my memory.
Follow-up question. Steve, I know yours is still alive, but I am curious. Do you know what color your mother's eyes are?
Yes.
Do you, Andy?
Oh yeah.
I am not.
No,
But my mother died
I think your mom had
14 years ago.
like kind of a lighter brown. I think
I don't know.
so. My mom
I
had
would have
like
said green, honestly.
hazel eyes.
Brown.
Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Brown eye?
Brown eye, yeah. Oh,
Interesting.
Carol. She don't play.
Okay. So I also, for listeners, it sounds terrible. I don't really have pictures of my mother either. It's a long story. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, huh. Okay. We later find out back in time.
Back in time.
But it's Adam Scott as Mark weeping in his car.
Oh, he's like sobbing.
Yeah.
That's fucking.
That's why I chose that
full on,
word.
Yeah. full on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which we
Ugly
all
crying.
did at work at least once in our lives, right?
I did that before you guys came over.
For the podcast?
Yeah.
No. That's insulting. But at my corporate job, I used to do that a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I worked when I was a car salesman, it was right next to a Target. And I would go to the Target parking lot first and just sit there for a little bit.
Sit there and cry?
Get a little cry out. Yeah.
Mm. I feel you. We've all done that before.
We've all done it. Yeah. So he weeps in the car, then heads into the office. And the secretary at the front desk lady says, are you ready for Mr. Scout? You know, we don't know what's going on yet. And so then he heads back in, talks to the security guard for a second, says, I'll see you tonight. Puts all of his...
That's such a good little point because he talks to the security guard and he says something like, the security guard says, see you later tonight. And then he says, see you in a sec. Because for him, it's no time at all. And
Right.
it's just such a nice, great little touch.
Which at first you're like, okay. Like you don't notice that stuff until it's on a rewatch. But he puts all of his personal effects in like a lockbox and takes like generic versions of it. He swaps his snow boots for dress shoes. He puts his watch in there for like another watch. Takes his badge with a photo on it and puts on like a blue badge. We don't even know what that is. Stuff like that. All of his wallet has to go in there with no personal effects. Takes the elevator down. And then while he's in the elevator going down, you can see his eyes open in like a significant way. Like he seems to change mentally as he's going down.
They do a little dolly zoom and like,
Yeah.
you see the change. It's sweet.
He's noticeably happier
Yeah.
as well.
And I love how he's because there's that really, really, really long shot of him walking down that
Through the
maze
long
of
hallways. Yeah.
But as he's walking, he's walking happier. He's fixing his hair. He's like kind of like clearing out his nose because he's probably like, why is my nose all running?
Yeah. He doesn't know he was crying.
Right. Yeah. It's stuff, little things like that. And he finds,
I must be sick.
yeah. At one point he finds the
Tissue.
tissue in his pocket. He's like, oh, I must be sick today or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it says his name is Mark S. Allentown on his desk, even though they said Mr. Scout is here. So you're kind of like, huh, that's fucking weird.
It says Allentown.
I saw that. I could be wrong, and it's really embarrassing, but that's what I wrote down, that the placard on his desk said Mark S. Allentown.
Huh.
But his buddy in the cubicle next to him says, you're breathing shitty. That's our first introduction to Dylan.
Good old Dylan, played by Zach Cherry.
Yeah, man.
I love Zach Cherry so much. Like that guy, honestly, for me personally, if he retired today, he would have given me so much joy because he's the guy from Spider-Man Homecoming that was like, hey, you Spider-Man, do a flip.
That's all.
That's all you need to be an MVP legend in my life. Zach Cherry, I owe you an award.
Plus, he wrote that song. Oh, she's a crazy bitch, but she fucks so good and on top of it. Right?
That was him.
Yep.
Oh, that was
Cherry.
Buck Cherry. My bad. Petey might have gotten him sick. Petey's the old boss of that department. We don't know that yet, though. And we're like, oh, okay.
If you breathe on me, I'll rip your fucking larynx out.
Oh, that seems like a bit much, don't you think?
I'm wrapping the Tumwater file today.
It's so interesting, too, like all of the computer design. Like it's kind of retro futuristic, like the design of the show, you know?
Yeah.
It's got this like Fallout kind of vibe down there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's cool. Like it's kind of insidious because there's so much technology that Lumen has, right? But they have all their employees down there working with like seemingly retro,
shit.
antiquated, old computers, so they can't like send messages out to the outside world and stuff like that. Like it's pretty insidious and smart.
And
But
Irv,
it visually looks cool.
Irv's the other guy played by John Turturro. He's old school.
Hi, kids. What's for dinner?
What's for dinner, kids?
What's the thing with the what's for dinner kids? It's like is it something he says every day? Is it a group joke that Petey started?
I think it's his greeting and they all hate it.
It doesn't even make sense, man. Like, are your kids cooking you dinner? Like in this scenario,
What
you're a
kind of
shitty
shit dad
dad.
are you?
You're a shitty dad. Yeah. And so Irv's old school though too. He's talking about how because he's about to, Dylan's about to finish the Tumwater account and he's excited because he wants to get the Waffle Party, which we don't know what that is yet. But
immediately we kind of know what he's talking about because in corporate structure, it's like, ooh, are we going to get a pizza party if we work hard? And not a raise, but a pizza party.
And Irv's like, back in my day, we used to get the creamer cup refilled. Like, dude, that's so fucked up. You guys just had to work for creamer. It's like, yeah, it is fucked up. You know? So even the Waffle Party's better than it used to be. You know, I just love all the corporate culture jokes. But their department is called Macro Data Refinement. Mr. Milchek is like the middle management. He wants a word with Mark. Miss Coble, who's like the executive of their whole company, wants a word with him in her new office. There's this funny little joke too, where it's like,
you should compliment her on her office. I feel like it would make her day.
Yeah, on her new office. You know, she's a little insecure about it. Hey, I like the new office. Oh, it's
such a piece of shit. The old one was better.
Yeah, the old one was better. Like it totally threw him under the bus there.
Also, a little character thing when Mr. Milkshake comes in, Irv stands up to greet him, and I just love like the corporate like. I don't know, kissing at the feet of the masters that character exudes is so good.
Yeah, the old school, especially since Irv's old school too. Hello, sir. It's almost like a military thing. Miss Coble looks at Mark and says, "You look awful. You look hungover." And the way he's like hurt, like, oh, okay.
I mean, there's the thing. Like Adam Scott looks rough in this show. Because when I think of Adam Scott, you think of like, look at that. Who's that handsome, dapper boy mayor in Parks and Rec? You know.
Yeah.
But they do great lengths of making him look haggard in this show for good reason. And there's a point to why he looks haggard. Yeah,
and he doesn't know that he's been crying in the parking lot for 20 minutes.
And that he is hungover.
He's struggling. Exactly. Yeah, true. But she's like, the board will be joining remotely. And then she turns on the speaker box and just waits. And clearly they want him to start. And it takes him a minute to realize that, oh, hello, right? They tell him that Petey is no longer with the company. And that's so sad to me too. You guys are one of my favorite office friendships. He's what? They can't tell him why because
he's the
of the
voyeur
NDA.
of the office.
Yeah,
We should have been notified what happened. And he's like, oh, that would be a HIPAA violation, an assault on PD's privacy by you.
They talk about how Kier would like to nominate him to chief of his department.
That's
right?
what we should tell anybody who like messages us like, hey, Chris wasn't on the latest episode. Why is that? Oh, well, that's an assault on his privacy by you.
You should feel bad. So they promote him to Petey's job and tell him that a handshake is available upon request. And she is disappointed that he actually requests one. It's so funny.
I request the handshake.
Here.
Fine.
And he's like, oh, and thank you to you as well, board. Oh, the board won't be contributing to this meeting vocally. Christ.
So true.
There's a woman named Carol used to have Dylan's old seat, is what Irving recalls. So before Zach Cherry's character was in there, there was a woman. And think about it. I was thinking about it on this rewatch, right?
What happened to that woman?
Not only that, but from now that we know, because we know exactly how it is to be them by the end of this episode, I can say this, right? I think, but like people like Irvin and even Mark haven't seen a woman. Or no, I mean, Mark maybe ever.
Right. Yeah.
But Irving hasn't seen a woman in like 4 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark maybe ever.
And
Well,
Dylan,
Mrs. Coble.
maybe ever.
Yeah, it's
Miss Coble.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah.
true. But does that count? She's
right. I mean, it's Patricia Arquette. Come on.
No, she's gorgeous. But a handshake is available upon request.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
No, that's true. I'm dumb as shit for saying that.
There hasn't been any warmth from a woman in 4 years.
Sure. And Irving's like a super dick, and it's so funny. Like, sorry about that, Mark. I know you guys are, and only PD understood your humor.
The way he says humor too, your humor.
I love how he's so buttoned up and well-to-do and mild-mannered. And
Oh, Turturro has been trained by 4 to 5 Coen Brothers movies to have the most fucking impeccable comedic timing and tone for this type of show.
yeah, he's great.
He's such a beautiful quirk. But they want to,
Very, very sneaky.
he's there to supervise the protocol on the entrance exam, essentially, right? And I love that we got that weird opening scene of her on the table, and then we get the behind the scenes version from Mark's POV, because he said, "Who are you?" "Oh, I'm sorry."
I got ahead of myself.
But now we see Irving, like, you skipped the preamble, and he's like panicking. And
There's that one really creepy moment, like right before Milchek leaves them. He's like, "I love watching you all come in like this." Like, ew. do they purposely get thrown on the table? Why is that part of the protocol? That's so weird.
that is strange.
So weird.
I love, like, I'm sure we've all been a part of those like training seminars where like the booklet that he's flipping through, like, say this, then say that. Like, because in my sales job, there are scripts like this. If they say this, then say that. It's like a thing they try to train you on for like when you're actually selling something. It just gives me shudders. It's so robotic and impersonal and gross. And they do such a good job of showing that here. And that's the door she was banging on, is their door, so we get to see that side of it.
And I love that we're seeing it from their point of view, and it's just as scary for them as well.
What do we do?
John Turturro is freaking out.
She's not supposed to do that. Yeah, why is she not supposed to do that? What's going on? It's such a fascinating entrance there. But he apologizes for skipping the preamble. He tells her that her name is Helly R.
Helly R.
Yeah. And I know you must be feeling really disoriented right now, but good news, this is your orientation. And like all the corny jokes that come from corporate culture, and they don't land with somebody like Helly at all.
No.
You're on the severed floor of Lumon Industries. I'm sure you've heard of work-life balance. And then she hits him in the fucking face with the speaker.
Ow, fuck.
It's so good. So at that point, he goes off script. My name's Mark. Okay. I woke up here 3 years ago or whatever. Petey was the voice. Like, did you kill Petey? Because he said he wanted to kill it.
I wanted to kill that voice. Yeah. No, Petey became my best friend.
And then she tries to grab the binder and she asks to leave. And he says, "Ask me one more time."
Yeah, because at this point, he's kind of given up.
Because there's that rule that we heard about going in.
Says it, yeah. She has to ask you 3 times to leave.
And she's like, okay. So then he's like, all right, I'm taking you out of here. Follow me, right? And he takes her all through those long hallways that we saw him walk through earlier. He gives her like a little tour. We're expanding here.
And it's there's so much more mystery. Just the fact that like they're walking through this labyrinthian, nondescript hallway, passing a bunch of other departments seemingly that are empty. Like, why is this place so big? What are all these departments? Why is no one here? It's just fascinating stuff.
When we see a little bit of their work too, and they just like click those letters and put them in the bin. It's like, what the fuck
They're
is
just
this?
playing Balatro
Oh, I wish.
on their computer.
What a job. What a job. And then he says he's not allowed to watch her leave. I'm not allowed to see. And she's like, okay. Because he does show her the door to the stairs, and it's clearly exterior stairs. There's like snow out there and shit. It's just like 2 flights up, and it's the parking lot is what it looks like. She opens the door and immediately she's coming back in, and she does that like 3 times. I love when we get like the 2 shot of him behind the wall.
Yeah.
And you can see what it would look like if he was watching, is that she does go out, lays down, like falls out there basically, and then voluntarily walks back in is what it looks like.
We get such a cool shot of like camera tracking backwards, her coming through the door. The door swings open one way, and then closes the wrong way behind her.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cool fucking shot. I just had to shout that one out.
Yeah, the edit is great and it's so intriguing. I wonder too, I was thinking about this on the rewatch. I want to pause for a second because throughout this whole scene, Patricia Arquette is, Miss Coble is watching, and Mr. Millicek is like, "Do you want me to interfere? Obviously, something's going wrong, right?" And then we get Irving's point of view too. Like, she's not supposed to do that just because she's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, this is not how it usually goes. I think it's safe to assume that.
Right.
And yet, Mark tells the story about how he said he was going to kill the voice. So obviously, them being upset is normal. So I'm confused how it's supposed to go, what Mark actually did wrong, what Miss Coble's actually angry about. Do you guys have any insight on that or your take on any of that?
I mean, I wonder if like some people are a little more timid and meek when they're first woken up in there. Like Irv doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would have stood up and started banging on the door when he was orientated.
That would be inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between yelling at a speaker, like, "I'm going to kill you if you don't tell me who you are," like what Mark supposedly did, and then
smacking him
what
in the face
Helly's doing where she's throwing stuff, being super combative, ripping doors open, slamming everything. Like, I get the impression that the combination of her being as, understandably upset as she is, and him being brand new at this and not being to handle it as well as like Petey probably did when Petey woke him up.
He should have studied that binder a little bit.
Yeah, he studied it for like 10 seconds.
Like on the walk in, I would just peruse a couple of...
He was so confident. He's like, "I got this, no questions."
Yeah, no, I don't need your help, Mr. Millicek. This is the board's listening. I need this, I guess.
For that promotion?
The whole concept of this wouldn't work. And I don't want to overthink it, but it's like the only reason you do a good job is so you can like, everybody's working for the weekend, right?
Right.
They don't get to spend any of the money they're making. They don't get to do anything. Like, why would you?
You're just working all the time.
Yeah. Why would you do that? It wouldn't be effective. You're not going to.
Dude, have you ever been to a waffle party?
That's true. That's true.
Have you ever had your creamer not full and wanted it to be full?
Today.
You would do a lot of things.
Thank you, Erica. But she comes back in and she's like, "Am I dead?" Like, and that's the whole point of this exercise is to realize that you can't actually leave, And he's like, "No, you're not dead, silly." And then we cut to her talking to Miss Coble, and she's like, "Look, I get it.
I too have wanted to pummel Mark in the past.
I wanted to pummel Mark myself." And he can hear he's getting the Band-Aid put on. It's like, what the fuck, dude? And not the orientation video, the dreaded thing that every new job does. His next part, Mark couldn't possibly screw up because it's a video. And
when I worked at the, do you remember, what was that show? It was on UPN in the early 2000s. It was
SmackDown.
No, that was, but I like what you're thinking. No, it was a dating show. And it was like Blind Date or something like that. It was a really seedy, gross, like just a step above porn TV show.
Sounds like my style.
Like it was a reality show, but like also like extra skeevy. But like it played before or right after SmackDown on UPN. So as a kid, like sometimes the TV would just keep rolling, and you're a young teenager and you're like, "Wow, pretty girls," that type of thing.
I'm like, that's still go on.
Well, the host of that show, I forget that dude's name, but he was like a douchey guy with his like hair spiked up. Like, "What's up, everybody, on this day?"
Guy Fieri?
Yeah. "We're going to Flavortown." So that's when I'm like about 13, 14 years old. So fast forward to being 16, I'm starting my first job at the movie theater, and they cart out the little TV cart with a TV, like, "Oh, it's time to watch the orientation video." Turn that sucker on.
It's the dating game?
The dating game host walks up like, "Hey, you're working for National Amusements Theaters. What's up, everybody? We're going to teach you how to sling popcorn." And I'm like, "Oh, that's the guy." And no one knew who I was, and I couldn't really tell anybody because then they might think I'm a creep.
Nobody else watched that show?
Yeah.
It couldn't have been that bad if it was on UPN.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but I remember being like 13, like, "Is mom coming down?"
Like the stuff we were watching back then, like, you remember like the MTV Spring Break stuff?
Yeah.
Where it was like, "Oh, this girl has to try to pop this balloon on this guy's crotch." And they're, you know what I mean? Like, I was like 9, like, why?
Why though?
What is Spring Break?
He's got good form.
I've got homework.
I could do that so much better.
Yeah, you're just like thinking of the technique of the game.
"Mom, we should play this on our spring break."
Carol? This episode of Streaming Things is sponsored by BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.
You know, Steve, there's something I need to get off my chest.
What's that, fella?
It's been weighing on me. You know that I resigned at the day job recently, right? And I've been a little scared. There's a family to worry about. There's health insurance. There's capitalism.
Sounds like a stressful time.
But we all carry around different stressors, big and small. And it feels better when you bring something to the light. We keep them bottled up. It can start to affect us negatively. And therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. In my case, it's all the stress, the misery, the fear. But I had to come over here and share that with you, and I felt better. You know, that's a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
Unloading all that on you and Erica and feeling better myself.
That sounds like my Friday night.
Sometimes you just need somebody to listen. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you're not vibing, that's completely fine. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/streamingthings to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/streamingthings.
Hey there, all you ho-ho-hos. Happy holidays from every one of us over here at Streaming Things. During the holidays, it is incredibly important to look back and be thankful for all of the people in your life. And we here are so thankful for all of you for supporting and listening to the show. And we want to give a special shout out to our super patrons for the month of December 2024. We're closing the year off right. Let's shout them out. Thank you so much to Nice Guy Eddie, Albus Stinkpot, Maddlestat, Susie Callahan, Anthony Corona, Jim X, Lady Tarashley, Just Liz Calabria, Mike from New Hampshire, Brett X, E. Scramo, Lil Tickler, Svento7, Jay Scramo, Bloff Pum, AK Ashley Ray, Adam Busby, Big Butt Horn, Jer Latanovich, Kaylee Sampson, Rabbit Dog in a Barbie Car, Elbander, Charlie Friday, Alexis Adler, Peaches, Emmy, Haley B, Joe Velez, Stanton Valentino, Trisha Bueller, Sun Loving Mortal, Suzanne Road, Jadinklage Morgoon, Jen Robinson, Kloop, Kalisha Reeves, Paula Garcia, Brenda, Aaron Armstrong, Kevin Strother, Ashley Powers, Stephen V, Casey McCain, and of course, Enza. Thank you all so much for supporting the show, and we hope you all have a happy holiday. Now let's get back to the episode.
It's orientation video time. And Mark asks Miss Coble, "Are you mad at me?" And she kind of flips out, like for the incompetence or the disobedience. And he's like, "What?" And then she flips out, right? Mm-hmm. Something I noticed on the rewatch too is really cool. In this scene, once she calms down a second, she says that her mother told her.
Atheist?
Yes. And then later she says that her mom was a Catholic.
Yeah.
I don't know what the significance of that is, but it's got to be for something.
Well, she's a mysterious character.
She says, my mother was an atheist, but she used to say that hell is just the product of a morbid human imagination. But anything humans imagine, they can create. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't understand. So then Mark goes back to his desk.
Yeah, she says that a department like yours can go either good or bad. The difference is
the people.
The people.
Meaning Mark sucks. She fucking hates him for some reason.
Yeah. Probably because he keeps bothering her about the goddamn recycling bin on the off hours.
That's not true, though. She calls him every time.
All right.
But he's always like, Mrs. Kochek or whatever. Kochek?
It's
Mrs. Selvig.
Selvig is her like civvy name. But he goes back to his desk next to Dylan, and Helly is watching her orientation video in the corner. And when he puts in the video, it's her. And the others are like watching her as she finds out what Severance is. And so she tells herself that she has voluntarily and willingly and consensually undertaken a procedure that severs her memories of work from her personal life. So that's her way of realizing.
The video was taken 2 hours before it will be shown to her. So she's wearing the same outfit and everything. Yeah. But I love the color grading of this particular scene. It's just the way, because she's watching it on like a VHS tape. So it's like a shittier quality tape, right? But because of that tape, the colors are more saturated. So she just looks more alive in the screen than.
Well, plus I think it does a good job of showing you like the fluorescent lights of those offices and just how just stale and unreal and gross you feel when you're there. Because before Google did all the cool shit with their workplace, most of us. I was never there. I just see I saw the movie.
I watched The Internship.
Exactly. And I love this bit where she goes to Mark and she's like, so I can never leave? He's like, well, you leave every day at 5:00. Well,
5:15. We stagger our exits.
And she's like, but I'm stuck here. It's all over now. Every time you find yourself here, it's because you chose to come back, which I think is so beautiful. Again, I'm just thinking about it in the way our society is right now, but it's like, hey, quit your job, by the way, because I know you hate it, or you likely hate it. And every time you're there, it's because you chose to come back, you know?
Yep.
It's just like an interesting wink at the audience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is great because, yes, that's 100% accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also very telling of his character as well, where he's not actually thinking about it the way,
right?
Like he's trapped, like that version of him.
He's drinking the Kool-Aid.
There. Yeah, he's drinking the Kool-Aid. And even when we, later on in the episode, even his Audi is kind of saying the same exact thing. Like, I'm still doing the work down there. Like, he still sees him, like, both sides of himself as one person at this point in the story. And it's beautiful.
And right in the middle of that, like, I'm having this philosophical epiphany. Irving looks over and goes, hello. And she's like, oh, hi.
Isn't there a cutaway where she looks over and Dylan's just like mugging her, like mean mugging her?
For sure. She's competition for the waffle party.
Oh yeah, he doesn't like competition.
But then Mark becomes Mr.
He sees that dog in her.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, she's got the dog in her. Mark becomes Mr. Scout again, going up the elevator. And says hi to the security guard, which again to him was just a few seconds ago. It's so crazy to think about. He notices his badge is different as he's taking it off.
Yeah, even though it's identical, when he gets the promotion, she takes the one, gives him the other. It's the exact same badge.
Is it? I thought there was a little S on it or something.
It's slightly different, I think.
Is it?
But it's like basically the same.
Oh,
that's why he's just
identical.
like, huh? Did I misremember this? You know,
right?
I just thought it was such a good touch.
Oh, I got a promotion.
Yeah, when he goes out to his car, there's a note on it. And it's a fake story about how he hurt his head. Like it was the overhead projector fell off the shelf and hit him.
Like touches his like, what? Oh, there's a Band-Aid up there.
Yeah. But he gets a gift card as an apology to Pip's Bar and Grill, the VIP section.
I love the card. It says at the bottom, congratulations on the gift card.
And then he almost...
Welcome to my bar and grill. It's
Pip
in the door.
Oh, shit. It's Pip's Bar and Grill.
We serve kisses and hugs. They're complimentary.
And then he almost runs over Helly.
Hey.
And it's neat because they clearly don't know each other.
But she's like holding flowers. Like, I wonder, like, what she got.
What she got.
Why she got them?
Oh, yeah. Maybe she hurt her hand hitting him with the speaker or something.
Maybe.
That was her gift.
There's a great shot, though. Like, it's an overhead shot of him pulling. I think he's pulling out of his car. So it's like the parking lot. And you get that the lines of the parking lot. But the middle line still has snow on it. So it's extra pronounced. And then there's a red car on the top of the frame or a blue car on the other. Oh, a blue car and a red car on the top and bottom
Matrix
of the frame.
style.
And it just kind of just illustrates how severed he is from his life. And it's great. And he has like when they go to his house, you see he has a very blue fish and a very red fish. Like they're doing like red pill, blue pill type shit all the time in the background.
Damn, that's nice.
So good.
I didn't notice that. Damn, that's cool. Yeah. So
shit.
He's drinking a beer, watching a documentary about gnats. And like you do. And again, I like that symbolism. Yes. Everything is meticulous in this show because the gnat documentary is talking about how the gnat only lives for 3 to 7 days or something like that. And I think it's him like wasting his life is what this whole thing's about, right?
Yeah, because house is so drab. And that's Lumon employee housing too, right?
Yeah.
And like it's just as empty as the actual places because the only people we see in this neighborhood is him and his neighbor, which is cool. This is a nice little touch.
And Pips, nobody's in there. Mrs. Selvig put her trash can in his spot again. She always mixes up the recycling and the trash night. And he's like, she seems kind of put out that he's even mentioning, well, that's fine. But I'm just saying like, yours is in my spot. So, he's very passive aggressive and meek and letting everybody push him around all the time. Right. His sister shows up. We find out it's his sister and he forgot about the quote unquote dinner.
Is her name Devin?
Yes.
Okay.
And she's like, well, it's nearing the anniversary. So I thought you might want to be around people. And he's like, wrong.
Anniversary to what?
Yeah. My next note is, where is he going to? It's a quote. I don't remember who said that or why I thought it was significant, but whatever. Oh, she says that about his Annie. He gets the gift card and she goes, "Oh, where's he going to?" But you don't know yet at this point in the show. So that's a really clever line.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? That's a weird way to ask it.
Pips, of course.
Rickon, her husband, greets them.
Dick on.
Hopefully he knows how to zigzag.
It's Rickon.
Here's our captive, which again, another little funny bit about how they feel about his life, right? And then there's this.
You, sir, look at peace.
There's a super.
This guy sucks.
Oh, sucks so bad. But everybody sucks at this. Like, they're all having like we thought it'd be better to have a dinner without food so we could talk more. Like, immediately, fuck you guys.
Yeah, this is the most yuppie, obnoxious party ever.
My friend in Lima hasn't had dinner at their dinners in 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, fuck you. Jesus.
Mark used to be a history professor. Oh, okay. What is your take on this whole situation? Well, you mostly taught about World War I. And he tells that story.
I got one. It would have been a faux pas to call it World War I.
Right? And they all kind of like wait for him to add some wisdom to that. And he's like, well, they wouldn't have called it World War I because there wasn't any World War II yet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the smart guy. You know? They all called it the Great War. And then Rickon mentions his late wife, Gemma.
Dude, Rickon is just a chatty bitch. Like,
Real
he is
piece
just,
of work.
Oh, yeah.
He is just letting all of the cats out of every bag.
Tells him he works at Lumon now, which makes medicines and tech, but they do everything pretty much.
Topical cells.
It was began in the 1800s, he says. And then Rickon spills the beans about the severance procedure. And then everybody's like, ooh, because it's a very controversial kind of thing, right? Now, look, Mark made a decision that was controversial ethically, socially, morally, and scientifically. And I support him in it, you know.
I stand by you.
Rickon's such a dick too, because I glossed over it, but the opening line is them talking about Mark's dad, who is also his wife's dad. And he's like, yeah, he used to drink whiskey from a flask that said whiskey is life on it. And then Rickon, real serious, is like, yeah, he was an alcoholic, undiagnosed. you know, it's just like very judgy. And you can see Mark like, the fuck?
He's one of those people that is using anyone's sort of crutch in their life as like let's look at me and how interesting my life is, even though I'm referencing everyone else's lives. It's so obnoxious. Yeah. Because when he outs Mark having the severance procedure, Devin's like, I think that's Mark's story to tell everybody.
Oh,
not
I'm
yours.
sorry.
Oh, sorry about that, my guy.
Yeah, he's after he kind of blows up on the World War I guy.
Well, because Pat
keeps interrupting him.
That guy's name's Pat, and he starts to mansplain the severance procedure, even though he's never had it.
Yeah. So it cuts to after the dinner. He's with his sister. He's eating a sandwich now because they didn't have any dinner. And I think he takes a drink from his dad's whiskey flask.
Yeah. Well, a flask at least.
I figured it would be fun. It'd be cool if it was that one.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not going to therapy anymore. And so now we know that his wife died at some point, thanks to Rickon. Mm-hmm. And she basically forces him to stay the night there. And he's in
your house smells like pregnancy.
I like the brother and sister relationship.
Oh, they're great because they're
even little good night, my lord.
Mm-hmm. Good night, my lady.
Because even though he's so depressed, and you can tell that, like, you can tell that they still have that bond where they can kind of like shoot little barbs at each other and play and stuff. It's adorable.
My favorite barb is the next morning when he's telling her about the guy that he saw or whatever. And she's like, you smell like alcohol still. And he's like, I was drowning out all the memories of our parents switching our beds. Because he's in this nursery and they have this weird yuppie theory that
3 beds in the room, like including a race car bed.
Changing the kids' beds is traumatic. I also love the idea that there are 3 beds. There's a crib, the race car bed, and then a normal bed. He's in the race car bed.
Race car bed, yeah.
Which, fuck yeah, right?
Yeah. Given the option.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to fit in the crib, and I don't want that one. But yeah, so he gets up for a glass of water in the middle of the night, and he sees something outside.
It's some guy.
It's some dude. And then the dude disappears when the car lights turn onto the street. So he tells his sister about the guy.
There's a businessman in your yard last night.
She's unconcerned about it.
Is it upper management?
It's like, well, there's a bar down the street. It could just be a stumbler, you know. Well, it seemed like he knew me. That's what he says. And then we cut to him.
Did the prowler invading my yard make you feel seen?
I forgot about that line. It's so good.
He's cleaning his gutters in the next scene. And like looking at the view. Is Lumon the building in that vista, or is he just looking at like freedom?
I don't know
when
what
he's cleaning the gutters.
Oh, I didn't quite make out what he was looking at.
Mrs. Selvig calls him again while he's in the VIP part of Pip's Bar and Grill, waiting on his food. And he's trying to explain the garbage situation again. And while he's there on the phone with her, a man sits down and tells him to hang up. And he says, "Hi, kids, what's for dinner?" Which is
it's so good.
We got that conversation earlier, so it was so great. And he tells her, "Your voice is different here. It's worse." He's like, "Who the fuck are you, dude?" "I'm Petey from work. I bypassed the implant." Because he's like, "Everybody in my office is severed." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I bypassed the implant." And he's like, "Well, so you have complaints about the job? And then so you like broke out and left, and now you think they're after you?" It's like, "Yes, absolutely." "Well, why don't you just make a complaint?" "I tried that. So did you." Mm-hmm. Right. So it's really ominous.
Because Petey doesn't look good.
They're after me. Right.
So you've unsevered, and now what? They're after you? He just goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
It's such good writing.
Yeah.
They being Grainer, a man named Grainer.
We don't like him.
He says, "Nothing down there is what they say," and then hands him a red envelope and says, "Things I know need to stay known."
By a friend.
He's like, "Wait, so we're friends? I'm your best friend.
You're my very good friend."
which is something a best friend would say.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good.
Yeah.
The card says, by the way, to like my number one niece.
"Happy birthday, niece." Yeah.
and the way that it starts is, "Sorry, the card is all I had, but I'm sure you'd be a super awesome niece." And it talks about how they both have always wondered what kind of person they were. And Petey says, "For me, I always assumed I must be a monster to do something like this to me. But I'm not. You know what I mean? I get it now. If you want to know more, come to the address on the back of the card, but I'm not going to force it on you." When he gets home, Mrs. Selvig is outside. She says, "My mother was a Catholic," blah, blah, which I thought was significant because the only other thing we've heard her say is that her mother was an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I like how they don't show her initially.
It's such a good reveal.
He's just talking to a voice that's in the foreground that you can't tell who exactly he's talking to. So when they do cut to her and you realize it's Mrs. Coble, and she's like, "Mark, you're good people." It's like, "Ooh, what's happening?" Because I remember the first time I saw this episode, I was so confused by this. I was like, "Is she severed too?" And
right.
in like in the when she's not at work, she's a sweet, kind old lady, but like at Lumon, she's just this like hard boss lady.
It's such a fucking good way to end an episode.
Yeah.
It's such a like a nothing reveal, but like in the context of this show, it's like, "Oh shit, Mrs. Selvig." You know what I mean? Like it's such a good. I love it too, because "you're good people" is an idiom. That's a grammatically correct way to say it, especially in like the Midwest. You know what, Steve? You're good people.
Good people.
But in this show, it's cool because he's two people. And she knows that. And so it's a really neat pluralism.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
That's genius.
It's a neat pluralization.
Oh.
You're good people. Oh, it's so good. This show's fucking amazing, dude.
You all, everybody.
You all, everybody. That's the end of episode 1, which brings us to our top 3 favorite moments. Andy, I'm really curious. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Helly watching the video of herself, her orientation video. With it's cute when the other guys are like trying to sneak peeks and stuff, because like, you know, they just had the whole big interview thing with Mark, and he just like has to take his seat. You know what I mean? Like he's removed from that position of power, and now he's just like the curious little cat. But for Helly to sit there and we as the audience learn what the fuck is going on to some extent, like, oh, she voluntarily did this to herself. And Helly's just had that conversation of like, am I dead? Am I in hell? Do I have a family? You'll never know, that type of thing. But then to sit down and be like, oh, I voluntarily severed my, what was it? My memories will be spatially dictated and shit like that. Like, it's so fucking cool.
That's a great scene.
Awesome. Steve, you're number 3.
My number 3 is the yuppie dinner. I really like how the information flows out of this dinner, from just how obnoxious and annoying the people are. Because like in a vacuum, like a lot of what they're saying specifically about the severance procedure is probably true. Like that is a very moral, questionable thing to exist, but also to like put yourself through. And that's a lot of the big philosophical things that the show's going to kind of grapple with the season going forward. But it was great to kind of like they're throwing down little hints like, oh, Mark was married to his wife, who was a teacher. She's no longer with us. The dad was an alcoholic. Like they're just dropping these like things and they're peppering them in really organically. And the way Mark and Devin are kind of like reacting to it.
We didn't call out Devin saying like you took this procedure so you wouldn't have to think about her for 8 hours a day or something like that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a huge part of it, is that he's so depressed from the loss of his wife that the only way he can even think about continuing living is just to not think about her for a large chunk of time. Which I don't know how much that helps him, because he still has like the time he does have. He's still thinking about her. Just go to therapy, my guy. Let's go. But I just really like how that scene plays out. And yeah, it's my number 3.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful part of this show, is that like that's his backstory, and we don't know why the other people have chosen to do this fucked up thing. But I think we've all been through stuff that was prolonged. That's like, I don't want to die.
Yeah,
but I don't want to do this. So if I could just like space out for 6 months and get on the other side of this, I would press that button.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so it's like you kind of understand him from that perspective. Oh yeah, my number 3. Oh, this is so tough. There's like 5 incredible moments, I feel like. I'm going to say my number 3 is Helly trying to leave. Just the way that it's shot and edited, the way that Andy pointed out, is so genius. And at the time, your first watch, you're like, what the fuck? You know, is this the afterlife? You know, because that's like, if you've sat through some Lost or something like that before, or anything like that, you're like, okay.
Did you ever play PT?
Oh,
No.
yeah, I remember that.
It was like this.
Petey, his boss.
That's a Kojima thing, right?
Yeah, it was a playable demo for a game that eventually got canceled. It was a Silent Hill game that Hideo Kojima was making with Guillermo del Toro.
Fuck.
I know, right? But ultimately, it got shelved. But it was this little horror game where you walk down this hallway and you find out this backstory of like a family, like the father murdered all the family and stuff. And you get all the way through this hallway and then go through the door and it brings you right back to the beginning. But like things keep changing every time you walk. So it's like a
roguelike.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, it's just this incredible demo of a game. And like so many games have tried to ape it since then. But her trying to leave reminds me so much of PT, where it's just like, you go through the door and now you're back where you started, and go through the door and you just do it over and over again. Incredible.
Yeah, it's just, it works on narratively. It's such a, okay, I'm fucking in. What is going on here? But then from a filmmaking perspective, just like especially that 2-shot where you get to see on the third go, the reveal of what is occurring from a third person perspective. But you've already seen from her perspective, she's just walking right back into the building. That gives you everything you need to know about how the elevator works and how the severance works. And it's just like showing, not telling on a fucking professional level. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is like how it's done. Yeah. That's my number 3. Andy, you're number 2.
My number 2 is the opening scene. Who are you? And then the unknown Delaware. That's a perfect score. It's just such a interesting, bizarre way to open a fucking show. And I don't know, I just get chills thinking of it. As soon as I turned it on the other day, watching, I was like, fuck that. I forgot how good this fucking show is.
Yeah.
Got chills.
That's my number 2 as well. What a way to kind of bring you into this world. It's such an evocative start. Like, what's happening? What's going on? You get the beautiful cinematography, the beautiful score. And then honestly, like the incredible acting by Britt Lauer in that moment as well. Really kind of brings you into the world. It grabs you and throws you on a table, a conference room table. Like you're watching Severance now. Here we go. Strap in. It's a great way to start off the entire series. That's my number 2.
My number 2 is that same scene. I agree with you guys. I think it's that static shot with the panning camera and Helly just frantically running around the room. So good. It's so beautifully, like immediately I was like, oh fuck yeah, okay. This is going to be awesome. Because we cover lots of stuff on the show over the last 7 years. And sometimes it's work.
Yeah.
Severance, not the case, my friend.
No.
What a joy.
Yeah.
What a joy. Andy, your favorite moment of episode 1?
My favorite moment is Helly's attempt to leave. That shot that I called out before where the door opens one way and closes the wrong way behind her is such a mind fuck. And also, while you were talking about it, I just realized the way that it's happening is she's going outside and then her Audi is like, no, we're here. But any Helly's perspective is that I walked through a door and I just came right back through the door. But that's not what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So when we see Mark's perspective and she goes out the door and she's still on the outside, her outie self is like, no, go back in.
Oh, you're right. They must have told her she's going to buck it a little bit at first.
Right. Yeah. So
Because I always thought of it as like a robotic, but it must be her like, oh, this bitch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's her on the outside. Like, come on, like, back inside.
Interesting.
It's so fucking cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point. My number one favorite moment is the "Who Are You" part 2.
Oh, yeah.
When you see the same opening scene, but from Irv and Mark's perspective
That's
on
great.
the other side of the glass. Because the reason why it's my favorite scene is it takes an amazing scene that is the opening one and just gives it so much more depth and character. And it's just you're reviewing the same thing over and again, but through different perspective. And you just see just how initially we think like there's this like buttoned up organization behind a door kidnapping someone, and then you see it just people who are also victims of the organization, not knowing what to do, just trying to do what they think is a job. And then Irving's getting petrified that she's like slamming on the door, and it's like just as scary but for completely different reasons. It's incredibly well done. And then and it finally ends with Adam Scott getting a speaker thrown at his head, and that's just funny. Fuck. But yeah, and even then, like after he hits him, he like, cause I think at one point he's like, can't I just go talk to her like a normal human being? They're like, no, you got to stick to the script. So when she hits him with the speaker, he's like, okay, look, no, he actually opens up and is a person for a little bit, and that's what calms her down. And then she gets mad at him again when he starts to read the lines. But yeah, great moment.
My number one, sorry, I just saw a screen grab of that opening conference table with Helly laying on it. It's so well lit and shit. It's so crazy,
That's great,
dude.
Yeah.
My number one is the Mrs. Selvig reveal. When it's Mrs. Coble played by Patricia Arquette. I just think that that's so well done. Like I said earlier, the way I described it is like this gigantic reveal in the context of the show, but in reality, you got nothing. Okay. His boss lives next door, but it's like seems so just immediately, for reasons you can't explain, malicious and like mysterious. And I think a lot of people say, and it's true for some of my favorite shows of all time, Parks and Rec, the whole fucking first season is a slog and it becomes the greatest show ever made. It's so wild. People will say, oh, you got to watch 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes, buddy. And then I swear to God, it's such a good show, But really, we live in the real world.
Yes.
You got one episode. And if I don't instantly want to watch the second, fuck you.
Right.
There's so many TV shows to
we're
watch.
covering it for the show.
Yes.
Podcast.
Unless people are paying me, then I will do it. You know what I mean? And I think Severance does that. Like I just immediately want to watch the second episode. Which I wonder if Apple was doing the 3 episodes at once at the time. I don't think so. So it's like you had to wait. It was like,
I don't
maybe
remember.
they were.
At the time, I know when I first watched it, I started watching it like 4 or 5 episodes had already released.
Mm-hmm.
Like the season hadn't ended yet, but I started late.
You have to binge a little bit.
Yeah.
I had slept on it, so I think it was all out by the time that I
Money,
watched it.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, though. That's why it's my number one. I just think it's like a fucking, from like writing a pilot perspective, it's like, that's good. You did good. You did good, kid.
You did good.
Dan Erickson. Which brings us to our final little segment here, the Waffle Party recipient.
Who's getting the waffle party?
Andy, who are you going to give the waffle party to?
There's so many. I want literally you could pick any character in this and say that they were probably
They crushed it.
the star, because everybody fucking crushes it.
Mm-hmm.
The security guard.
Judd.
Yeah, Judd.
Yeah, Judd nailed
Fuck
it.
yeah, Judd. I think for this one, I have to give it to Britt Lauer. Her Helly coming to terms with where she is, the just gut-wrenching performance there at the beginning when she's like can't remember the color of her mom's eyes and shit like that. Everybody obviously we all want to give it to Adam Scott just because he's such an interesting person. He's basically playing 2 characters and playing them both so fucking well.
Mm-hmm.
But and I feel like I'm going to end up giving it to him on probably every other episode for the rest of this
God willing.
season. But for this one, Helly coming to terms with the situation that she's in, she got a unique part. So yeah, got to give it to her.
I agree with Andy. 100%. I think Adam Scott's doing some incredible work, and I think under any normal circumstances, it would definitely be him because he's doing the most in this episode for sure. In terms of like, he's on screen the most. He's doing a lot. He's playing different characters. The way he goes from like really depressed to like having a pep in his step in the beginning is like really, really impressive. However, that scene that you mentioned, Andy, of Britt Lauer, you know, she goes from being confused, scared, angry to like resigning to, okay, I'll do your stupid fucking test. And then just realizing she doesn't remember her name that first time and getting really worried. And then, you know, what are the color of your mom's eyes and like her breakdown, like that is all done in mostly a take. It looks like, I think, and it lingers on her performance and she just crushes it. And it's so impressive to be able to convey all that emotion believably. And that's, she knocks it out of the park in just one scene. Basically, she had it wrapped up in the beginning. She's getting that waffle party, as far as I'm concerned,
with syrup.
Yo, not even that sugar-free syrup bullshit that I got in the divorce. She's getting the real stuff.
This is Mrs. Buttersworth. I agree with you guys. I thought I was going to be a little cheeky with this, but I'm going to give it to, because Adam Scott's such an obvious winner, and yet everybody. I'm giving it to Britt Lauer.
We all everybody.
Because she's the audience surrogate into this, even though Mark Scout is the main character. And it's really fascinating how they're able to, I mean, they start the show with her, and then it's like just Mark crying. And then, you know, we get to see all this different, it's a puzzle piece, a goddamn Rubik's Cube of writing genius going on here. But yeah, Helly Riggs, played by Britt Lauer. That's my Waffle Party recipient for episode 1. We hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to go through all 9 episodes of season 1 again, and then, walk with you guys. Hold your hands through season 2 as it premieres on January 17th. And we'll have a new episode every Friday alongside every new episode of Severance. So join us for that party. Check out the Game of Thrones coverage over on the Patreon. We got a couple of movies and stuff too each month. This one, it's going to be Armageddon.
And The Iron Giant.
The Iron Giant. That's right. That's right, baby. So thank you guys for joining us. If you're new to streaming things, welcome to the family. That's all the time we have for right now. We've got to go return some videotapes. My name is Kit.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Streaming Things, streaming Severance.
Happy streaming.